This begins a series of videos that will describe the function of each of the indicators on the charts that are contained in the trade workspace. So we're going to start off with the RLP indicator. All this is the line at price, meaning that throughout the course of the day, the line will just show you where the current price is, so it's going to be moving all throughout the course of the day. It gives you a visual idea of where you're at compared to where you were at. And that's its entire function. It's as simple as that. Now let's go to the next indicator. We're going to look at the VWAP. This is a modification of TradeStation's VWAP. And what we've done is we've added additional standard deviation lines. That's really all we've done. The VWAP is the volume weighted average. So if you want to learn more about that, read up on what the VWAP is. But this indicator, when you change these to true, then what you'll wind up having on the screen, depending on how many standard deviation lines you put in there, if you put them all in, then the indicator is going to look like this. And what's interesting about the VWAP with the standard deviation lines, we've colored this in such a way that you can see how the market tends to move. Let's expand this out again, hang on. It moves from the lower range up toward the VWAP, which is this, in this case, the white line. And then it moves toward the upper range. And that range usually doesn't go beyond this level right in here. And it doesn't usually drop below this level in here. So if you look at this, and this doesn't matter what interval you have it on. Let's get the day activity. Yeah, this is a real good example. How it moved up to that blue area, moves down to the yellow area, and then fluctuates in between, but it generally doesn't push beyond it. Now, in some cases, when it does, all right, it stays there. All right. So just be aware of what this looks like and its potential use as you are trading throughout the course of the day. And let's get this back here. All right, see how it moved up here, came down to that level. It generally doesn't push beyond it. Sometimes it does, and then it stays there. Okay. So I like to use this on a separate chart. The trading chart that we usually work with, we just use the VWAP itself, and I don't use the standard deviation lines. It's just too busy. All right, let's go into the next indicator. The next indicator is the ASHI candle. Okay, and it has a setting that can be manipulated. Its default is 8. And as you can see, it's very responsive on a 2500 tick bar, but you can change that setting to whatever it is you want to smooth it out. And you can see how that looks if it's a setting of 80. Still gives you a very clear picture of the trend. And if you set it higher, it'll enable you to avoid getting into a trade that's going in the wrong direction. You don't want to do that. Don't trade against the trend. So if you set it a little higher, it'll help you to do that. And this is, of course, on 2500 tick bar charts. But we've got it on all of our charts. Read up on what an ASHI candle is. It'll give you some further information. I'm not going to explain that here. Okay, now let's go to the next indicator. Now the next indicator that we're going to look at is the SES day, standing for session day. And it also has different settings. And you'll see that we have several different indicators with different values in the input field. When this is set to 0, it is only looking at the open, the high, and the low of the current day. You can manipulate by going into the easy language. All right. We have this set up currently to show the open, the high, and the low, but not the close. Because on this particular setting, if you include the close, you're going to be seeing the close of every bar, and it's a busy line that is meaningless. So we've disabled that with this particular setting. So it just gives you the open, the high, and the low of the current day. Now it'll also give you the historical, but it's opening based upon the open of the New York Stock Exchange, depending on your time zone. Here it's 7:30 Central Time, it's 8:30, and so on. So it'll trace that open. And of course, the open is a very important line to know. Now, as we look at the other indicators, okay, you see that we've got different settings here. So I'm going to turn this off. And now we'll look at this. One is referring to 1 day back. Let's try that again. So one is 1 day back. So it's plotting the previous day open, high, and low of the previous day based upon the 7:30 session in Mountain Standard Time. Now, when you have both the current day and the previous day highlighted, you've got a lot more data there to work with. So that's why we have more than one indicator on each of the charts to display whatever it is you need to be watching. The next indicator has two input fields. If this is set to 0, it's going to show you the open and the high as well as the low of the overnight session. So this is going to open at 1600 hours and then chart the high and the low as well. Now, if you want the close to be highlighted, you have to set that to 1. And then you'll be able to see where the close was. And of course, the close is going to be on every bar. And that is a little busy, as I mentioned before. But if you want to be tracking that, you can using this indicator. And one last thing. A lot of traders want to follow the close, or at least know where the close of the previous day was. So on this indicator, if I go into easy language, just click on this and set this from 0 to 1, right click, and then verify. You always have to, if you manipulate anything in the easy language, you always have to verify it after it's done. So if I so much as just hit the space bar, I have to hit verify all, or pardon me, verify. Otherwise it won't propagate. So hit verify, and then you'll see the close of the previous day. Now you could also do that for the other indicators as well, but as I mentioned, you don't want to usually have the close being propagated on every bar. It looks very busy. So if they're all on, it'll look like this. Okay, now this is a little busy for the individual charts in the trade workspace. For that reason, we have a separate workspace that is charting just the sessions alone, and it's called the sessions workspace. In that chart, everything is displayed. Here you can choose whether or not you want it displayed or not. So that's just entirely up to you. Okay, let's go to the next. Come to think of it, I'm going to stop this video here and then create a new one when we start talking about our oscillators